What's up, everybody? Thralls Metal here once again. I'm Necrotic.
I'm Jammin.
And we have an album review for you, or rather an EP review. And yeah, we are kicking off 2024 with a shorter offering, but this weekend we'll seem to have a little bit of a theme, at least with one person's name that gets name dropped everywhere. So we're going to go over the latest offering from Panzerchrist, All Witches Shall Burn. This comes out on the 5th of January on Emancipation Productions. This band formed in 1993 in Denmark. This is only their second EP overall. They do have 8 full lengths. I own Regiment Ragnarok, which admittedly I haven't jammed in a while, but I do know this band's style. They are blackened death metal that loves tanks and apparently hates witches.
Over the years, I'm sure I've jammed Panzerchrist here or there. It's kind of inescapable, being as they've been around since the 90s. But I haven't really jammed them enough to be able to say, like, hey, I'm really excited for this record. So it was a pretty much fresh take for me.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, this band kind of disappeared for a while. They put out a release last year, Last of a Kind, and admittedly we didn't even know it came out.
Nope.
But that was also their first release in 10 years, and their first one with new vocalist Sonia Rosalind Ahl. And admittedly, I only know at least one album of theirs, but I figured why not check it out? I do know this band's style, and I like blackened death metal, so we went into this one kind of blind, and it is definitely blackened death metal, though I would say it leans a little bit more towards the black metal side. This EP is a lot of tremolos. It's cold, there's a lot of harmonies, blast beats, and granted I didn't hear the full length, but I can tell you Sonia's got some really killer vocals.
Yeah, she does. Great vocal delivery, great presence, just overall, like, very commanding, very evil sounding, just blah!
Yeah, dude, it's very cold and icy sounding. I mean, it matches up really well with all the tremolos and blasts around here, opening up with Sabbath of the Rat. That song is mostly tremolo and blast. It's very cold. There's some cool harmonized riffs. And her ghastly screams kind of command it and make it sound that much more evil. Though it does take a really interesting melodic break towards the middle with these really interesting bassy synths in the background.
Yeah, in fact, most of these songs take a melodic break.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting transitions across this, and there was definitely some surprises in terms of, like, stylistic shifts, at least in terms of what I was expecting on here. Stone for the Graveless, which all of these songs start with S. I'm just now noticing that.
Hey!
Yeah, the bit of a theme. I don't know if that was intentional, but this song starts off with like industrial noise, like kind of like an industrial beat, not too dissimilar from something you would hear on a Godflesh album. But then it shifts into like a blackened death doom song. It's the slowest song on the album. I think it's also the longest song on the album. And it has this really creepy descending riff. It's kind of got like just a good, bleak, almost funeral dirge sort of sound, like not dissimilar from bands like My Dying Bride or Hooded Menace. But if you were going to go a baseline comparison on a good chunk of this band's sound, I would definitely say God Dethroned are very much in the mix there.
Yes, they kind of wear that on their sleeves. There's not a real deviation from that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the same. Like, you have, like, groovy pockets. Again, the melodic tremolos, they're harmonized. They're kind of bordering on black metal and death metal at the same time. Though, again, I would say, like, most of this is more black metal-centric. Though this song, Stone for the Graveless, is probably the one that is the biggest departure in terms of their metal side. It is notably more of a doom song. There's like folky, sort of dirgy melodies that are peppered in, and it builds to like a more blackened ending. Like, it starts getting a little bit faster. There's more cold tremolos worked in. Her vocal approach starts shifting more to the high range, and the screams get a little bit more, you know, dry and throaty.
Yeah. Even a cool little drum break. One of the few transitions in this entire EP that makes sense.
Yeah, because the atmosphere on here is odd. Like, we brought up the synths that are kind of peppered in towards the end of Sabbath of the Rat, where, you know, it kind of has like this big droning bass synth, and, you know, on top of that you have like these folky guitar harmonies, and they kind of feel like they collide more than they kind of weave together. And there's other moments on here where it kind of does that, like Satan is Among Us. It opens up with what sounds like an orchestra pit tuning up or a carousel, and then like feedback. I don't quite get it, because the song just kind of launches into like a flat out like second wave style black metal song. Like, it sounds like a slightly slower Marduk song or like an early Satyricon song. Like it just kind of rocks out, a cold tremolo blasts. It's got some groovy pockets, but it stays very, very much a black metal song.
Yeah, Satan is Among Us, I would call it more straightforward.
Yeah.
As far as anything is concerned. Like, it's got a rock beat in the bridge. It holds on to the melodies for a long time. Like, that tremolo melody never breaks.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole song, it's constant.
There are some sections where it's like picked differently, but the melody kind of stays very static. And I would say like a good chunk of this feels very minimalistic, like they kind of stick to one trope and kind of drive it home, minus Stone for the Graveless, which definitely seems like it has more dynamics to it in terms of a song that really builds towards like kind of a big crescendo at the end. But Satan is Among Us and Sabbath of the Rat are just kind of straightforward black metal songs. Nothing really wrong with that, but at the same time, I feel like I've heard these songs done with a lot more intensity because like one of the big issues for me on here were, while the riffs are very familiar and, you know, pretty solid, there doesn't seem to be a lot of energy behind them. And, you know, that might be partially due to the production here, which is a little on the muddy side.
Yeah, very fuzzy. Everything just kind of blends in with one another. Like, maybe if the tremolos weren't constant all the time, even over the riffing, you could probably separate it a little bit better. But there's so much reverb going on, like, you just can't really grasp a hold of much outside of these driving tremolos.
Yeah, and the weird atmosphere, again, it never really fully meshes. Like even on Stone for the Graveless, that industrial sort of beat, it kind of hangs on in the song.
Yep.
It doesn't just set it up. It's kind of almost playing in the background almost through like at least about half of the song. And you can still hear it, but it really doesn't seem to add very much. And then when you get down to the last track, She's a Witch, this is easily the most different song on here, where it is this big gothic kind of ambient track. And it's kind of interesting, honestly. Like, I kind of like it just as, like, a soundscape or almost like a score. You get to hear some clean vocals and a lot of looped vocals, including, like, laughing children occasionally, which is always creepier than hell.
Yep. And there's some clean singing in it, which is fine. But we found this stream on No Clean Singing. I just thought that to be kind of funny.
Yeah, the whole back end of this, I feel like it's like a grand outro, and it definitely has, like a cool kind of scope to it, but it feels weird. Like, if you ever wondered if, like, Fulci did a sci-fi movie and did a score to it, like he tapped Goblin to do it, this might be kind of close to what it sounds like. Like, this sounds like if Goblin scored The Terminator, which it's still kind of almost there in my head, but I can't quite get it. But I think this is kind of reasonably close. But the thing that I read about this, at least in terms of what was on Archives, was this is a companion piece to Last of a Kind. And we didn't get a chance to jam that one. So we kind of wonder if these songs are meant to complement ones that are on there. Like, according to what the band said, at least on that, this is like kind of a continuation of the themes. And I don't necessarily know the themes of that one because, again, I didn't listen to it. But at the same time, it's still an EP, and I still feel that, you know, an EP like this should be able to stand on its own. I mean, it's 4 tracks. It's almost 20 minutes. And honestly, only a little bit of it really did. Like, it's a very uneven listen, and when it is straight ahead, it feels just kind of stock.
Yeah, maybe these are B-sides to the record we didn't listen to. Again, it would probably help if we jammed that album, but we didn't. It just seems overall really disjointed. Like, even from song to song, nothing really stays the same. Which, again, is not necessarily a complaint in most aspects for songs, especially if you're going to do an EP, but, like, I don't know, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, there's just kind of a lack of cohesion on here, and that's the thing that kind of put me off. Like, musically, I think it's all right, but at the same time, like, you know, even the black metal elements are kind of just generic. And,
Very.
you know, while they're executed really well, nothing on here really grabbed me outside of the vocal performance, which I thought was really solid on here. So overall, I'm going to give this 2.5 stars. It's okay. Like, that's about all I can really say about it. If you're a fan of, like, second wave black metal, there's definitely plenty of it. I do think Stone for the Graveless is a standout track. I like what they did there, incorporating, like, that Death Doom, almost Funeral Doom vibe with black metal there. I do think the atmosphere is just kind of odd on here. Like, it feels like it's almost kind of randomly placed.
Yep.
Like the 80s synths and sci-fi synths don't necessarily match up with the cold, icy vibe of some of this. Like they really kind of collide. I do really like the vocals, though. I think she does an excellent job on here. I like her delivery a lot. And, you know, I would like to check out the full length just to see what it was about. Maybe that, you know, kind of comes together a little bit better than this. But yeah, this does feel a bit like a collection of extras. But at the same time, if you're a big fan of God Dethroned and at least for Stone for the Graveless, if you like Death Doom with like a blackened touch, I'd say check this out. Form your own opinions. Who knows? You might really dig it. But yeah, it wasn't really my thing.
I got to agree with Nick on this. It just wasn't really my jam either. I'm going to give it 2 stars. It was all right. Again, we've said it. The song "Stone for the Graveless" is actually a pretty decent song. I like the more like blackened Death Doom take on it. Like it just felt more sinister and evil. Overall, it was just kind of there. Like it didn't really seem like it fit together. The transitions were hard and kind of disjointed. Like the atmosphere that's created outside of the fact that it's just fuzzy, kind of muffled tremolo. The industrial spin they took on it I thought was kind of weird because it doesn't really fit from track to track. Like it's also something that's just kind of there. And what an odd thing to put there if your goal is cold, dark black metal. So, I don't know. It's probably something I won't go back to per se, but again, like we said too, if you like things like God Dethroned and at least for Stone for the Graveless, stuff like Hooded Menace and stuff in that nature, you're probably going to like this. If you're a Panzerchrist fan, again, I haven't listened to enough of it to be able to even really give you a decent synopsis, so it might be something you like. If you have listened to the record before and this makes more sense because of that record, also let us know. It just wasn't for me. So 2 stars. Again, decent, but just kind of there.
So, if you enjoyed this review, give it a thumbs up, and if you're new to the channel, subscribe, because we do stuff like this all the time. We are also on Patreon. If you'd like to help us out there, there's a link down below to thrallsmetal.com. Our Patreon is there. It is also on our channel, but thrallsmetal.com is where you go to get Thralls Metal stuff. We have new shirts, we have old shirts at a discounted price, and we even have hats. So if you're interested in any of that, click the link down below.
And here we are in the beginning of 2024, starting a new year for you guys. Crazy. First of all, Happy New Year. If you didn't catch it on our Facebook anywhere, we didn't really say it outside of live stream. So Happy New Year to all of you guys. Thank you for spending another year with us. A bunch of stuff coming. We got the Black Dahlia murder ranking coming. We have the return of What's John Jamming, finally. I know this guy always has something up our sleeves, and of course we have reviews constantly. It's going to be a big year. There's a lot of sweet stuff coming out. But yeah, as far as Thralls of Metal is concerned, thank you guys for sticking around with us and joining us for another year. We couldn't do it without you. I'm going to let this guy talk some more because I've talked a lot.
Yes, you did. Yeah, you guys are the real heroes here. You guys keep us going. Tons of stuff planned for you, so definitely stay tuned. And with that, we will catch you later.